Share screen. Yep. Okay, Chrome tab. Cool. Here we go. All right, so here's how we make campaigns that get results. And I'm putting the kinda simply because the campaign can get results, which is different than the business getting results with the campaign. Like it's kind of like you structure your gym correctly so people lose weight. That is different than people actually losing weight because there's other factors like they can't have Taco Bell, right? Like I don't care how much you're going to the gym, if you're eating Taco Bell, you're not going to lose weight, right? And so here's how we make campaigns that get results. Asterisk kind of. Okay, so here we go. So the first things first, let's bring this up real fast, is that we identify their best performing offer. And there's a lot of different ways to create this. Sometimes you've got something off the shelf. Sometimes you've got something that already works. Sometimes this is an ad that they've run in the past. Sometimes they don't know what it is, so you have to ask a series of questions called like a offer creation session. But let's just pretend we have the thing that makes the phone ring the most. Most people come in, it's most profitable. This is their best performing offer by metrics and measurements. That makes sense. And so like I'll often sit down with a client and be like, look, let's identify what's bringing the most cash, the most money, and simply get more of that. And they're like, okay, cool, that's great. So it's like 30, 45 minutes. But let's just say it's your best performing offer. I don't care if it's pest control, dentist, carpet cleaning, car washing, lawyers. Wow, I've worked at a lot, or blood plasma clinics. Like they've got an offer, they've got an outbound, they got a message. Why are people calling, right? And so like you have to get quote unquote put a lipstick on a pig, but effectively like their best performing offer. We just simply run an ad that has their best performing offer and run it to everyone in their serviceable zone. Serviceable zone. For the vast majority of businesses, and I'm talking about like local businesses, not e-commerce, not national, we're not talking about that. I'm just talking like a mom and pop. Everyone in their serviceable zone is probably like, let's just say a 5 to 10 minute drive if they are going to the business, and probably 30, 45-minute drive if the business is going to them. So like AC repair, like that, or plumbing, they're going to your house. But buying birds or personal training, bad example. But buying dentist stuff, the end customer is going to the client, right? So you have to establish a serviceable zone, but usually it's like 5, 10, 15-minute drive, right? Something like that. Any shorter and it doesn't really work out the way you think, and any longer, you end up running a risk of like, oh, I had no idea you were so far away and things like that, right? So identify their best performing offer, run it to everyone in their serviceable zone. And then what we like to do, or what I'm doing now, is simply a Facebook lead form. We bounce back between like the messenger bot, but like it works, but not really. Sometimes you do a funnel and it works, but not really. And it's the easiest thing to do is simply a Facebook form. Like it requires a lot less tech setup. It's easier. You can ask some questions, and yeah, you could just flat out quiz funnel them or survey form. Yeah, I know you could, but that's really like super advanced stuff, I would argue, especially when you're doing local business. Like when you're doing local business, get people on the phone, have a qualifying conversation, schedule them for the show. If your client gives feedback saying like, hey, these people are way too poor, they can't afford my stuff, then on the qualifying call, which we'll talk about in a bit, you can say, do you have funds to spend? No, yes. Cool, you qualify for an appointment. If not, whatever, right? So identify their best performing offer, run it to everyone in their serviceable zone, and we do a simple form. And sometimes I call this like a conversion device, which turns views into information, turns a click into a phone call, or I'm interested in, here's my name, number, and email, right? And again, for what we've discovered, for what we're doing now, Facebook lead forms works pretty well. Feel free to argue with me in the comments. Like there's not going to happen, right? So conversion device. And then we incentivize a phone call like this. And this is called a thank you offer. If you want really good thank you offers, watch QVC for 8 hours. And they're like, if you call and order now, we'll give you a bonus, right? And sometimes that bonus is free shipping. Sometimes it's next day shipping. Sometimes it's a percentage off or dollars off. Sometimes it's extra stuff. And you'll always have a client that argues like, we don't do discounts. Yes, you do, but fine. Or we don't want to devalue your services. Yes, you do, but fine. So instead of fighting on like the $49 or the $97, or whatever their cost is, we say, great, we're going to incentivize them with a thank you offer, a thank you bonus. And one of the best offers that I ran for a car wash was call and schedule now, and we'll add a Canuba oil and wax, a $9 or $19 upgrade, yours free, just like that. With this client in particular that I'm referring to, it's call now to reserve your spot. That's a thank you offer. Give somebody incentive and a reason, just like that. So identify their best performing offer, run it to everyone, argue with me if you want, 18 to 65 or 35 to 65, fine, whatever. Conversion device, I like to use Facebook Forms, and incentivize a phone call. Because if somebody is calling, that is like, oh my God, this is working, right? And here are some stats from my most recent campaign. And I just got off a campaign review call with this client. They're super happy, things like that. So we got them 51 leads at $6.11 each for a grand total of 311. Just like that. These are name, number, and emails, all that fun stuff. And then we want to test, let's just put that here. Conversion device, this is 51 leads at 311. Cool. And then this is like cost per lead, you could call that. Per lead. And then you want to establish like cost per phone call. And this is not a generally agreed upon metric and measurement, but it's really, really useful to be like, hey, I should know like my cost per phone call, because if I can get more phone calls, that's more ways to purchase and things like that. So let's look at this client, and I'm off screen right now. So let's do cost per phone call. There you go. So we got 23 phone calls at X dollars each, 311. So let's do 311 divided by 23 is $13. So we got them 23 phone calls. Cool. What's interesting, by the way, is they didn't pick up half. So I have to have the conversation like, hey, we need someone else who can pick up the phone and listen to the qualifying calls. We need a better conversion person, things like that. And then the next step is what's called incentivizing a show. And then you'll get cost per show. So we've got the cost per lead, cost per phone call, cost per show. And all I'm doing, by the way, is I'm having a conversation with my client, like, how do you sell your stuff? And then mapping metrics and measurements to it so that I know what's working. And I only know these numbers like probably like 30 days after, then it's fine. I've never successfully won a conversation with the client by arguing with these numbers beforehand. It's just, that's how it works for me. So whatever, that's what you're going to do. And then we establish what's called cost per show. And if these people were like scheduling correctly, right, and picking up the phone as intended, then very quickly we would know the cost per show. And I'm going to estimate, if you're calling, you're super interested, and if the person on the phone knows how to incentivize a show, then we could probably get like 50%. And I know this is kind of true because with our other clients, we're getting about a 50% show rate based upon a phone call. Cool. So let's just say we have 23 phone calls. 23 divided by 2 is, let's just round up and say 12 phone calls or 12 shows at blank for 311. And then 311 divided by 12 is $25 per show. Cool. Is that right? 12 times 25. All right, so let's just say I did that math wrong. 311 divided by 12 is actually 6. Cool. So I know that if I pay Facebook, let's just say $311, this is what happens. 51 people sign up, 23 call the business. And if this person properly qualifies, incentivizes a show, well, thanks so much. By the way, if you show up to your appointment on time, then we're going to give you an X bonus as well. Cool. And now we've got a 50% show rate. So for $311, we got 12 people showing up. These metrics and measurements will always be different for every single campaign, every single geography, every single industry, every single offer. But you can start building out an asset vault of campaigns that have worked for other people, campaigns that have worked for other businesses, campaigns that worked for other offers. So you can be like, hey, Mr. Johnson, look, I can't tell you with 100% confidence that this stuff will work. I will show you what has worked for other clients in the past and their numbers. You ready? Cool. So based upon what you said, you actually sound and look very, very similar to my Miami client that does blood plasma, and you're in blood plasma in Houston, Texas. Here are the numbers. We know that when we spent $311, we got 51 leads, 23 phone calls, and 12 shows. And based upon their reported numbers, Mr. Johnson, this one particular client close rate, so like let's just say cost per close, again, I'm making up these numbers. Let's just say they closed 1 out of 4. So they got 4 closes at blank for $311. So 4 closes, let's just say they charge, I don't know, $600, right? So $600. So 4 closes at $2,400 or $2,400. The sentence gets weird. 4 closes, 311 divided by 4. $77 each. Cool. And they actually close clients at 4 closes, brought in $600 of revenue each for $2,400. This is how like you have a client narrative and control and things like that. And so now I can be confident, be like, I can go to any blood plasma clinic, be like, look, here's the results we had for other people. Here's how we metric and measurement. And we know, which could be different for you because your business is different, your geography is different, blah, 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 everything is different, but this is what we did for somebody else. And this really provides confidence, not in me, but in my process, which is massively powerful, especially for people starting out. So now I know that my client is making money and I can use that to leverage better results in a way that isn't me overly selling. I just be like, look, here are the numbers. And they're like, oh, that's so cool. Right. So I can be like, look, Mr. Johnson, you should definitely be sticking around because you made $2,400 off of 311. Isn't that useful for you? Oh, but Jeff, we don't make enough money. I hear you loud and clear. Do you think it's a better idea to get more of these to make more money, or should you just flat out stop spending 311 to make 2,400? All right, so the problem is not with the marketing, the problem is with something else. The problem is with collections, right? So we have to figure out a way to get higher collections. Oh, okay, great, that makes sense, right? And so you can have a very, very strong ownership of the entire client conversation. So I hope this makes a lot of sense. Somebody responsibly says, but what about margin? You can make a discussion with a client, be like, look, what are your margins? Some clients don't really like sharing that with me. So I can't tell them, right? Or I can't properly communicate that other than by guessing. Because I can be like, look, I'm gonna guess that your margin is like, let's just say 70%. So out of the 2,400 times 70%, you've got 2,400 times 0.7. So you've made 1,680. So somebody did chime in like, all right, but you need to know about like the cost per customer and margins, stuff like that. Like, yeah, you'd have to guesstimate. And if your client is okay with that, cool. Usually they don't share that with me, so I have to guesstimate. But for the most part, if you're getting like a 5 or 6x for a local business, they're jumping up and down. And in this example, just touch the mic. We've got 2,400 divided by 311. So we're getting a 7x. Like this is what happy clients look like right here. Somebody else says like, what about management fees and stuff like that? I actually say like, look, you're paying me money to do this. My management fee is going to be the same whether you spend $3,000 or $300. So your best bet is actually to use me at my maximum capacity to get you more of this. Does that make sense? Cool. And some people say, but like, don't you include your management fee? I could, but for the intents and purposes, I try not to. None too different if I was an employee, like easy. If they do say, but your management fee and all that stuff, I go, you're right. These numbers don't make sense if you don't spend a lot of money. So you should probably spend more money. If it turns out, by the way, that like this is the most difficult thing for a client to figure out and pay me money, I said, look, as a good business owner to another good business owner, I understand that like there's no way in hell that you can keep paying me money like this. This campaign is not performing the ROI that you expect. If you'd like, what I can do is for one-time fee, I can train you and you'll never have a recurring cost ever again. Our fees start at X. Are you interested in that? And then they go, okay, fine, right? So I would say for the most part that concern about management fee and all that is really outside of the scope of establishing a cost per customer. But it is like a little bit of a hanging chad, so you do have to think about it. But if I showed these numbers to any future client, they'll say, wow, this is great. I want to do something similar, just like that. And then I can always just add $1 or a digit or an extra zero to this, and they're just super happy. And so that's like how we get results for our campaigns. I kind of like got off topic, but I figure it's a good recording. Again, for the most part, identify your client's best performing offer, run it to their serviceable zone, have a conversion device, incentivize a phone call. And for this client in particular, by the way, we are up to here. These are the numbers that we know. We do not know. Well, I didn't want that. I wanted a line. Here we go. There we go. We only know up to this right here. We don't know these numbers. These are just like internal thoughts and metrics and measurements and just kind of Jeff just filling in the blank. But I think it could be genuinely true, which means my client bought me and then spend money on Facebook and we turned 311 into 2,400, just like that. If these numbers are higher or lower, everything could change. But this is an example of like higher level analysis and understanding and a deeper feeling of clients and conversations. What's even more interesting, by the way, when I was talking about like the preview leads are legit earlier, usually what happens is something breaks down here in like the cost per phone call or the cost per show, like something breaks here. And this is where dollars are made. And so what you really have to do is have this in-depth and I would argue critical thinking consulting, like McKinsey consulting, not like what we call consulting, but McKinsey level understanding of not just your steps, but your business's steps and the business process steps of your client. So you can be like, hey, we're getting a cost per lead of $6.11. They're like, well, everything is broken. These leads aren't real. Everything is bad. I'm not making money. Cool. So let's deep dive into these two steps and figure out what's breaking, what's going on. Okay, it looks like your client, your front desk is not picking up the phone. Their scripts are wrong. You don't offer same day or next day, things along those lines. Cool. So we fixed that step. And now we know our cost per phone call. Oh, but these people aren't showing up and blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, let's figure out your show process. You're scheduling people 2 weeks out. Nope, they need the same day or next day or like in 3 days. And if they schedule, we got fight them on it politely and be like, look, we really want to get you in quickly. And based upon the phone call, you said this is 10 out of 10. Is this really worth waiting 2 weeks? If you'd like, we have early. We have 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. and even lunchtime hours. You'll be in and out in 30 minutes. And that's enough to get like 90% of the people from 2 weeks out to 2 weeks or 2 days in. Cool. So now we fixed the cost per phone call. We fixed the cost per show. Now people are showing up. Why are they not closing? And that's when I can get on the phone, be a quality assurance manager and say, okay, Mr. Johnson, what made you decide to not move forward? Like what spooked you? You want to get other quotes. If we had a quote sheet of the other 5 providers and how much they charge updated manually, updated monthly, would that solve your business problems and have you feel confident moving forward? Kind of like when Geico gives you quotes from other people. Yeah, that'd be so much better. Cool. So now we can fix the cost per close and the cost per show area. And then you can even be like, look, if you decide to move forward with treatment right now, I'm going to bonus you all this other stuff. So we've incentivized the phone call at no cost, incentivized the show for $5 and decided to bonus people. We're going to take $500 off if you decide to move forward within X number of time frame. There's also all sorts of incentives to push people back into this. And that's where reactivation campaigns or retargeting campaigns come in. But very few people actually think of it as such. Like a retargeting campaign is not just to get more leads. It's to move forward. So like if you've got like your cost per lead is very, very high relative to your cost per phone call, there's something broken here. You have to have analysis and understanding and say like, okay, what can we do to incentivize a phone call? Should we test other stuff? Should we have a different incentivization? Are those numbers okay? What is our cost per click or cost per phone call relative to our cost per show? Is there something broken here? Do we need to run you know what? Jesus Christ, right? Do we need to incentivize a show? Is there something wrong with their shows? Is there a location weird? Are people driving around, they're calling, they don't know where it is? Should we send them a map? Do we have like an onboarding thing? Do we have next steps? Thanks so much for scheduling time Here's a personalized video of the general manager welcoming you. Here's a voice note of how to get there. It's around the corner. Look for the big yellow sign. What can we do to actually increase our shows and decrease our cost per show? And then incentivize a purchase or incentivize a close. I should have said close there. And then it's the same thing here. So it's like having effectively retargeting and show up sequences and pre-conquering objections along the way. And like if you're doing something particularly difficult, like hair transplant, like things like that, you know what? I'm going to delete that too. So I'm stopping the scrolling. And if you're doing something particularly difficult like hair transplant, cool, I hear you loud and clear. We need to have a mini onboarding session or a mini incentivizing or a walkthrough, or like, here's how it's going to work to incentivize a phone call. Thanks so much for signing up. If you scheduled a phone call, this is how it's going to work. If you haven't scheduled a phone call, please schedule here. Cool. If it turns out you're doing hair transplant, people aren't showing for their appointment. Hey, here's a personalized message. I'm super psyched you're coming on board. Want to let you know if you decide to show for your appointment at 10 minutes beforehand, COVID, I'm actually going to bonus you 15 hair follicles for free. That's a $497 value simply for showing up. And the cool part is now you're incentivizing like a close as well, which is awesome. So you can go ahead and fix that. And then if it turns out you're getting shows but not closes, well, you can do a deep dive and figure out maybe the staff just absolutely hates this person. Maybe the wait is too long. Maybe something is broken. Maybe like there's a competitor down the street doing things 10 times cheaper. Maybe there's something that your staff is saying or not saying or doing or not doing. Maybe you aren't incentivizing shows, but actually saying like, hey, look, no pressure. I hear what you're saying. You can go elsewhere and come back when you're done. Because you actually think that's being like a good salesperson, a good business owner. But what you're actually incentivizing is incentivizing people to leave when you don't have to. You're like, hey, I hear you loud and clear. Want to let you know, decide to move forward to the car wash. And you find a comparable car wash for cheaper, I will credit you the difference. Just show us your receipt. And all of a sudden you're incentivizing a close, which is like massively powerful. And you're not pushing people away. You're giving the confidence to purchase with you. And so it's like all those fun things that really make a campaign work and ultimately earn your management fee, and ultimately have your client be jumping up and down. Again, everything I talked about is just absolute conjecture, because with this client in particular, we are only here. That's it. And our cost per phone call, like people actually calling, as in people calling the business, was $13.50 each. But the vast majority of phone calls were not being picked up. We actually are not fixing or incentivizing people to call. We don't have any text message saying call now to confirm your spot. It's just a Facebook ad, things like that. And so now we're trying to fix and lower or increase the number of phone calls or decrease the cost per phone call. And I'll bet we could get this down to like probably $9 or $10. Cool. And now we're getting 8 or 9 additional phone calls. And the cost per show, why is that too high? Why is that too low? Things like that. I hope this gave you like some interesting ideas, but this is how my brain works with these types of things, and ultimately puts me in, I would argue, a very winning position, and why I can win accounts with these huge, I mean, they've got like 30 locations now, right? It's like their venture capital back to the $1 billion. All they're doing is testing me with this one location. And they're going to bring on 5 more. And all of a sudden, what is a $2,000 a month account is now a $10,000 a month account. And we're just doing this again and again and again. And they're super happy because they got somebody who can lead and somebody who can have an analysis and thought process and business process and stuff like that. So I hope that's useful, makes a lot of sense. If there's any questions on this thought process, go ahead and drop them in now. But overall, this is like a combination of how I think, what I do, how I command control in meetings, how I build assets, how I own the narrative, how I prove the leads are legit, and ultimately how I keep clients for longer. The vast majority of agency owners out there, probably like people that are watching this either on live or the replay, just, try to like brag about this. And what I'm trying to do is have a thorough understanding of all these steps and what I can do to adjust, change, and fix as necessary. And 9 times out of 10, what people do is they just call it retargeting, but that's not appropriate. It needs to be more advanced. And I don't care if you're doing pest control, doctors, lawyers, accountants, attorneys, catering trucks, construction companies, permanent makeup, solar, real estate, whatever it is. It's having this level of thought process and understanding and saying, okay, let me just go ahead and figure this out and ultimately know if this number is too big or too small. This is also by the pure stuff coincidence, why it's advantageous sometimes to like focus on an industry and niche, because you can go and be like, look, I've got 35 people, pay me a lot of money. Stereotypically, their numbers are this plus or minus 10%. Your numbers are absolutely horrendous. Like your closing rate is the bottom of the barrel. And this is stereotypically why. So you need to use these forms. You need to be saying this. You need to be saying that, and all that fun stuff. So I hope that's useful for somebody.